Alrighty, welcome everybody to this session called More Than Numbers, How Finance Shapes a Company Culture. So it's 11 o'clock here in Sydney, maybe an hour before or an hour after, depending where you're from. Hopefully you're strapped in, you've got a warm or cold beverage ready to go, or you could be eating lunch. Either way, you're joining us today as we explore how finance leaders can partner with departments such as people and culture to foster collaboration, influence workplace dynamics, and align financial strategy with the company vision. In case you weren't in the previous session, I have made a reappearance, but my name is Martha, and I am the Senior Customer Marketing Manager here at Weel. For those that don't know, Weel is Australia's largest and leading spend management solution, and we help businesses and organizations of all shapes and sizes get their spending under control. So just like any other event, these sorts of sessions and the CFO Summit would not be possible without some awesome sponsors. So I wanted to give a big shout out once again to our friends at CFO Magazine, Fathom, and Translucent. For without them, Chloe, myself, and the team here at Weel wouldn't be here today at the CFO Summit. So thank you very much. So before we get started, again, I'm sorry if you're in the previous session, but you're hearing it again. We love when you guys get involved. So 2 things for housekeeping is on the screen below at the bottom, you'll see 2 options, whether it's the chat or the Q&A. For any general comment, pop them in the chat. But if you want your question answered and registered, or in case we run out of time at the end and we want to get back to you and make sure your question is answered to sweet, please drop it in the Q&A section. Cool. All right. Without further ado, let's get into the panel discussion. So I wanted to introduce and take the time to introduce Weel's very own Director of Finance, Chloe Dung. Thank you so much for joining, Chloe, for giving us a bit of your time today. Do you mind, for the people on the call, giving a brief overview of your career in finance and how you ended up at Weel?
Of course. So hi, everyone. So my name's Chloe. I'm currently the Director of Finance at Weel. Here, I work closely with all different departments, of course, including marketing. And from everything from strategic initiatives to operational related tasks. I started my career in professional services at EY, and then I moved to Vodafone for a couple of years. So I guess in my career, I've worked with different types of businesses of different sizes. And I think one thing that is common and important is for finance teams to not just be about numbers, even though that is our bread and butter, but also enabling other teams and the business to thrive. And I guess that's what we're here to talk about.
Yeah, awesome. Very good segue. Almost asking my questions and answering my questions before I get going. No, so I appreciate that. Let's dive straight into exactly what you hit the nail on the head there, which was finance evolving beyond the number crunching team at the organization. Chloe, how do you feel like finance's role has evolved beyond this traditional perception to now influencing company culture?
Yeah, look, I think if I roll back and think like the very stereotype of what a finance person is, you would think, maybe someone in a dark corner, in a big suit with a lab, and, they're just on their Excel sheet and they don't talk to anyone. I think we've definitely evolved from that. And I think for finance, as the reality is finance is a support function in every business, and we support the business. So it's really important to talk to everyone in the business and build a bit of that brand, So it's not just about you saying no, it's about like working with the business and helping everyone. And I think that's where it's kind of evolved to. And I think that's where we can definitely play a big part in the culture and making things better.
Yeah. And so, I mean, to your point there is that not just saying no, but actually playing a part in multiple businesses. And would you say it's accurate to call yourselves enablers in this day?
Definitely. I think there is still conception out there that, finance can be a blocker, because often we may say no. But I think it's really important, back to my brand piece, to actually make it known to different people in the business. And you can't build this overnight, but it's really important to, from day one, be very transparent and be like, guys, I'm here to enable you. I'm here to help you, not to say no. If I say no, there's a reason behind it. And I make it really clear with the people I work with. And I hope it's clear, Martha, you can tell me otherwise. Because we work closely with each other.
Yes.
That, it's more important. It's for me to be involved at the beginning. And then so that if we go through, we do forecasting, we bounce through what we want to do. And I tell you, maybe not, because I don't think it's going to get you the right return. And if we decide to do that, there might be a different reason for it. Like, for example, if we're spending this chunk of money on a project, we may not necessarily get a return in terms of, we'll increase revenue, but it's about building our brand. Then we make the business call that that's what we're going to do, right? Yeah. So we at least go into it knowing exactly what the goals are. And then, I tell people this is that you can bypass us, right? But in a year's time, or when the project ends and you didn't achieve what you wanted to do, it's not going to look good on anyone, right? Yeah. So I'm here to help you so that we can make the best case, do the project, like start it the best way we can. So after it ends, if it didn't achieve what we wanted to, at least we have a clear set of, this is what we thought, these things didn't happen, we can improve for next time, versus just not doing that due diligence and it's happened.
Yeah. Look, I'm not gonna lie, before we kind of got together for this session, I used our good friends ChatGPT and Google's Gemini to just go, what are the negative perceptions of finance that exist today? And the two most big common answers that came through was, this is ChatGPT's words, not mine. They said that finance is known as the department of no.
Yeah.
But what you spoke about earlier was that we're all at the end of the day trying to achieve the same goal. Like, we're all here to boost the organization's performance, regardless of what department we're in. And what you were saying about communicating earlier of what is it that you want to achieve, and then also communicating what the finances goals are also, and vision as well, kind of having that meet together. I feel like I wanted to ask you then, how do you create that culture of being open with accountability and transparency? Like, from a finance person, like, how do you feel like you can contribute to that?
Yeah, I think it's just really making it known to the different people that all your different stakeholders, that you're there to help them.
Yes.
Like, how I think about it is, I'm here to obviously achieve the business goals, but also to make you look good, right? Because at the end of the day, I probably don't have the final say. If there'll be someone on top, CFO, CEO, whoever.
Yeah.
And you want to go to them with the best case that you have, right? And if we work together, we can present something together, and then you can present it. Then at the end of the day, you look like you're more prepared, and you're going to look better. Versus take me out of the game. I'm not saying that you can't do it, but then you don't have that second person to help you. So it's all about letting people know that I'm actually here to help you, and then you can actually achieve what you want to achieve. And at the end of the day, we both win because we both look good, right? So we're here to help each other.
It is a beautiful state of mind, and it's moving away from the us versus them rhetoric and moving towards, guys, we're here to achieve the same goal. We're on the same side. And I think I'll probably lay on an example of being in the marketing team, and I've dealt with finance people before, of like crunching in ROI numbers. It's like, guys, you got this last time. Are you sure it's the right way again to do it again this time? And as a marketer, like, I just want them to say yes. Just say yes just say yes. Let us run with it, because we're in execution mode. But realistically, you're kind of training us as a marketing department to think twice and get our dollars to be spent in a more efficient way and more effective.
Yes, 100%. And like, at the end of the day, if you run with it, right, because you're like, I just want to get it done, I've worked so hard.
Yeah.
When the campaign is done, you will be looking at your ROI. You will be looking at what you achieved. And at that point, you're going to have to answer the question, guys, we spent all this. What did we get back? We didn't get anything. So you'd rather have thought about that at the beginning, because you'll have to answer that question sooner or later. And it probably is better to do it before you spend the money, so that you do it in a well-informed manner.
Yeah. And I think, again, this is talking from our working relationship here at Weel,
Mm,
but having that upfront conversation way at the beginning, even in the planning stages, to align with timelines and things like that from both departments. So whether it's
mm.
marketing and finance, or whether it's human resources and finance, just taking that proactive step of having that kickoff meeting potentially is a good way. And I think that leads us to our next question then, Chloe, is from a finance point of view, because a lot of people on this call are directors and CFOs and heads of finance, similar to you. How do you kind of manage month-end timelines with department timelines?
Yeah, so I think with most businesses or all businesses, they know that month end for finance team is very busy. So unless it's like an extenuating circumstance, don't come talk to us, right? And
You're
how
not the
I see
surf
it
lines
is,
on.
so that is something that I think across the board everyone can agree with. So it's really just setting the expectations up front with anything that, well, with most things that finance would be involved in. The reality is you don't come up with a project and expect to go full steam ahead in 24 hours. You
Yeah.
don't decide to buy something that's a big spend that requires finance involvement in 24 hours. These things happen weeks and months of planning, right? So like you said before, getting finance involved at the planning stage, at the beginning. And don't be like, okay, we've done everything now. We need you to have a look at it in 24 hours. Then that's it. And we have month end. That's not going to happen. So we're very busy then. These things take weeks and months beforehand. You can talk to us the week before, the month before,
Yeah.
or after month end, but it doesn't have to be in that week, right? If
Yeah.
that's happening, then something's broken down the chain. The communication isn't transparent and open like I'd like it to be.
Yeah. No, that's fair enough. And like outside of maybe putting in like meetings and kickoffs before month end period and where it all gets crazy, would there be any other like tools or yeah, I guess working processes like suggestions that you may have to other departments that they can use to help expedite this process of like
Yeah.
approvals?
Um, what I like to do is if there's any like business cases or whatnot, we allocate a day every week. That's the day we talk about it.
Nice.
So then if there's no business cases, we don't have to have that meeting. We don't need a meeting just to say hi and talk about our day. We can do that at any point, right?
Of
So
course.
there's an hour every Monday that's allocated. If you want to talk about it, we can have that meeting. So then that way everyone knows to be prepared, like I think it's important for everyone to know that that's the day you have, we can talk about it then.
Mm. And I mean, that kind of format, it sounds a little bit like Shark Tank, where you're going in with your proposal from any department and it's like saying, I want XYZ. And you found that that format kind of works. It's quite efficient.
I think it does because otherwise you'll find will happen is people will come to you all day, every day. Like whenever it's like they just want to talk about something. And a lot of times when they do that, they're actually not that prepared either. Like I'm all for like a side conversation, but at the same time, you want to be more efficient. So
Yeah.
then that way everyone knows that in that hour for that week, they need the things that they need to be prepared so we can have a very constructive conversation.
Mm. And like furthermore on this, because I know people on this call, they want to walk away with tactical actions they can implement in their
Mm.
own organizations. So how would you go about introducing that process of like, let's just call it for argument's sake, business case pitching Mondays? Like, how do you communicate that to the wider business and get that going?
I would literally just have a recurring 1 hour meeting to all
Yep.
the department heads and be like, going forward, if you have any business cases or anything you want to talk about that requires like finance approval, you go, that's the hour you have. I would include a template. So basically, very simple, what you're trying to achieve, what's the ROI, how much do you want to spend, what's your timeline? And
Yep.
then they can fill that out so they know exactly. I think it's if you keep it open, then everyone gets a bit lost as to what information they need to prepare, and they might have be under or over. So then they fill out that template. They will have to send that to you maybe if you have your meeting at like maybe on the Friday, so
Yep.
that you've had a look at it, and then on the meeting you can discuss it.
Yeah, cool. We're just flowing so great on this subject. We've actually had a question come through, if you don't mind,
Of
if you don't
course.
mind going through, Chloe. How do you create a culture that ensures finance is included at the right point in the process?
Yeah, okay. That is actually hard. I'm not gonna lie. Because especially if the brand of finance is they're gonna book me, then they're gonna involve you later because
Yeah.
they want to get things done to a point where, you know, for to talk to you is like tick the box, not so much they want you to help. So I think really it's just really building that brand and advocating for yourself. It is hard, I'm not gonna lie. And especially depending where what the company culture is, um, it might take some time, but really it's getting invited to any like there might be already some team meetings like for department heads. Make sure you're in those, and
Mm.
then two, building a brand out there that you're there to actually help them. And then you'll find that over time, because people know that you're not there to just say no, and you're actually there to enable them, help them, push it forward, they will come to you
Yeah.
earlier rather than later.
Yeah. I think that improving visibility in these other team meetings is probably where like I've seen the most value when it like for example yourself has popped into like a go-to-market session. I
Mm.
remember like you hopped in literally last week and you were there just to understand look what releases and what campaigns and processes that we have lined up and you were there to have that visibility and it's almost like look we're humans, we're visual creatures. So if we see that you're in the call, it's kind of like a
Yeah,
subconscious trigger for us to go, oh, snap, I need to make
yeah.
sure that I've got finance in there.
Yeah, and I think you really need executive and leadership sponsorship
That's
because,
a
like
huge
I
one.
said,
That's huge.
yeah, with this kind of stuff, it really comes top down. So,
Yeah.
like, say, if the CMO, the message from the CMO is, don't worry about finance, they'll just tick the box at the end. No
Mm,
one in their team is
mm,
going to come to you, like, because, that's what their boss is telling them. So, it's
yeah.
really important to advocate yourself to the department heads so that they believe in you enabling them and helping them, and so then the people below them will know to come to finance when they need to.
That's such a huge call, Chloe. Like that
Yeah.
is, I think like it's again when you get stuck in the day to day and you're just executing you kind of
Mm,
forget that you need to take people on the journey with you
yeah.
and so that's why like I love what you've kind of called out there of getting exec sponsorship is that you know what the business needs to achieve on your level and the people below you but the execs they won't have any awareness unless you're forthright in including them and taking
Yeah.
the journey too. And the way
Yeah.
you speak to, I guess from your point of view, when you speak to execs, is there like a specific manner in the way you do it? Obviously, like managing up and speaking at that level could be quite different to you're speaking to just
Yeah. I
uh,
think it's really about being objective,
yeah,
right? Because there's always company goals. What are we trying to achieve? And then below that is like, your department goals of how you roll up to that.
yeah,
And really playing into the fact that you can what you're trying to do is make sure everyone meets their department goals, their annual goals. And the reality is if we meet company goals, everyone does better. You get your bonuses, the pay rises, you can talk about it. And that's an objective thing that everyone strives for. If anyone tells me otherwise, they're lying. So it's not just about working easier, but also there's an objective thing that we are all striving for. So
yeah,
if you involve us, we are only trying to help you to achieve that goal. Because you
yeah,
may think bypassing us, you can do all these projects, but why are you doing that project? Because you want to meet your goal to get your
yeah,
bonus, right?
yeah, yeah,
And I'm here to do that sense check, to do that forecasting, to make sure that these things that you are trying to do will achieve that. And
yeah,
it's really just setting yourself up in that way. And you know what, whether it's up or down, it's the same thing because everyone has the objective where, they want to do cool work. They want to make money and they want to be happy doing it,
yeah.
and none of that conflicts each other. We can all work together and make those happen for everyone.
Yeah. Now that's a good shout. And I think again, we're talking about being open and sharing the goals really early on and keeping you guys in the loop and getting exec sponsorship. I wanted to dive into like maybe helping out with specific departments in so the finance and another department relationship. So I'll give you an example example is we've actually had a customer called Perks, who is a wealth and accounting firm based in Adelaide. And they kind of spoke at one of our events saying that this was the person from the people and culture team who was rolling out some really cool employee value proposition benefits and well-being, all of those sorts of stuff for their staff members. And one thing she pointed out, Beck from Perks, she pointed out that she kind of owed her credit to her finance team for being open to try new things. So there were quite a few initiatives that had never been tested before. They wanted to test it again. And Beck was kind of smart in the way that she kept the finance team in the loop to make sure it's like, hey, I've got this initiative that I want to plan out. How do I make that happen? And she literally just gave the keys to the finance team. So from your point of view, have you got any examples from Weel of how you've worked with Olga, for example, in the P&C team, or just from other departments of how you've come to play at that sort of scenario?
Yeah, so look, I think every company has like a people budget, right? And you make work with what you have. You know, some people's budgets are huge. You know, if you're Salesforce, you probably have like millions and millions of dollars, but not every company has that luxury. So it's really about, like you said, planning, because you only have this bucket. So you have to work out what is more important for you to do, whether that's, you know, some events or catering or whatnot. And I think when I talk to Olga, like, and with P&C overall, culture isn't just about, oh, we had that cool party. Like, yeah, that's nice for that day. But culture is so much more. Culture is like about how easy it is to come to work, how enjoyable it is, right? So yes, you have the budget and you split that out and you do, you know, you plan that out so that you don't go over and then like you spend everything in Q1 and then that's it, you don't have anything else. But then it's also building initiatives within the like setting the culture, setting the scene of how different how we work, you know, like the open transparency, and that's the way of working. I think also fits into the P&C piece.
And I think on that note, you've got finance goals, you've got people and culture goals. How do you feel like you could align them both to the overall company values? From your point of view, from your point of view, right? From your point of view. Not from Olga's, from your point of view.
That's a good question. So I think even though, you know, when you think people goals, you're thinking for the people, and then you think about finance goals, you think the money. So sometimes it seems like they contradict each other. But at the same time, I actually think they feed into the company goals quite well, in the sense that yes, you may have to carve the budget for the people piece of things, right? But at the end of the day, if the people are more happy, they're going to be more productive. They're going to want to come to work and they're going to do better work, which just means that in the company goal, you're going to achieve it.
Yeah. And I think that highlights a good one, is that outside of what the business puts out, I mean, you're not going to be able to put out anything if you've got a horrible company culture. So it's kind of quite complementary in that it's actually quite strategic to have that relationship between HR/people and culture.
Yeah. And like, I mean, people and culture, HR and finance will all support functions.
Yes.
They're there to support the rest of the business.
Yeah.
So I think if we are aligned, then we can actually support the wider business much better.
Yeah. No, it's cool. I'm in complete respect of that. And especially, I don't know, for the types of organizations, the full types of organizations that are on the call today, but if you happen to be in a small or medium business or a startup or scale up, for example, and you have a smaller team, it is quite advantageous to unlock those relationships quite early between these functions, so that as you scale and grow, I feel like you're just going to get better at optimizing the spend that aligns well to make people happy and to get the job done, I feel. Yeah, wicked. Exactly. In these last few minutes, Chloe, we're going to touch on some of the tech that may be used. How are emerging technologies like automation and AI shaping the role of the finance function in the workplace culture today?
I think it actually has been so beneficial. Like it's actually made things so much easier. One, obviously, if you have more automation in the tech, it frees you up more time. So you do the more meaningful stuff, like actually working with the different people in the business.
Yeah.
And two, I think it actually helps take away some of the points of friction. So,
Huh?
for example, like, you know, at Weel, we obviously use Weel, and we have budget set up for different people. So what is the spend is approved, it's created. So they're restricted to spending that amount on the thing that they've been approved for.
Yes.
So as from a finance team, that people are not going to be able to overspend, right? So it takes away that awkward conversation at the end of the project where they're like, hey, you do the reconciliation, you're like, oh, you went over budget, you spent like X% more. You don't, and then that's when I think a lot of the times where this whole finance are blockers comes from, because then they're coming and they're like, what are you doing? Why did you? But it's already happened. It's almost too late, right? Whereas the tech can actually stop that from happening. And then if they're blocked, they can't spend it. Then it's up to them to come to you and be like, hey, I've actually got more spend. We need to reforecast and whatnot. And that also helps with the whole talk, bringing things forward and not afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's helped tremendously. And like I said, it just takes away those awkward conversations where you're going to the person going, hey, why did you spend that?
Yeah.
What is this? What is this thing that I
Yeah.
just got a bill for? Versus them coming to you and going, hey, we need XYZ because of this. And I think it just really flips the dynamic around. And the whole conversation just takes a different tone.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. Look, I'm sitting here twiddling my thumbs because I'm thinking of like the times I've had death stares from the finance team if I've submitted an expense and there's no receipt, there's no invoice. And it is that awkward conversation. I'm like, I've paid for this already. And then I'm just getting like these kind of eyes from the finance team going, this is incomplete. And you have to chase that up. That's another hour or 15 minutes of that finance person's time chasing up this colleague when they could be working on something way more meaningful. So
Exactly.
I totally get it. And I'm sorry that I'm a repeat offender, but now not anymore because we're using Weel. I'm in a new place. We're using Weel, so that's pretty good. So that's a very good call out of like, it kind of like benefits the company culture overall and makes things streamlined, which is that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, 100%.
So we've got a few questions rolling through again. So, Zana, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. Could you please share a template of the one mentioned of how to discuss with your team, like timelines and to check if ROI is achieved, etc. So yeah, like Chloe and myself and the team can definitely whip up something similar to you and send that over after this summit when you're interested. So we've got your registration details, so that's all cool. Another question is from Nishith. What should be the ideal timeline for completing the monthly reporting packs, given that tech has improved enormously in the recent past?
I think it really depends on your business, but ideally at Weel anyway, we do it within a week.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, another one from an attendee is, what's your expectation of a people team with respect to thinking strategically about their budgeting across different categories of their budget? Example, staff benefits. What would finance's role the people role be here?
Yeah, so I think it's really having them have the lens of what we're spending, what are we getting out of it? Like, what's the outcome? Versus, oh, I just want to spend this money because this is a cool thing, right? It's like, I just want to spend on this event at this place because I think it's cool. It's a cool thing.
Yeah.
Versus if you did the same thing somewhere else for half the cost, from an employee's business perspective, would they get the same thing out of it? Right? Because I think it's like, we're all human. We can't help but when we look at these things, put like our own personal views on it, because oh, it's cool, I want to do that, so everyone must want to do it. So it's not so much about doing that particular thing, but more thinking about the outcome.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. And I think you're kind of teaching, again, as a marketer, I'm probably very biased, but training people to think in that same way, ROI first. And I know that people don't like to say, oh, think of it as spending your own money. Like, are you really getting best bang for buck kind of deal? But laying that sense of empathy sort of,
Yeah.
I guess,
And
reaffirms it.
yeah, and it's not about, like saving every dime here. Like we don't need to like, go to Hunter Street food court and have our Christmas party there. It doesn't need to be like that, but it's more just like we want to spend wisely,
Yeah.
because then if we blow it all in one, we've got nothing else, right?
Yeah.
Everyone has a finite budget, so you just got to make do with the most with what you've got.
Yeah. And so leading up to that is looking at long-term ROI, helping long-term growth for a business or an organization. How do you think finance leaders can ensure cultural initiatives to be that long-term financial sustainability? Like, how do you see that they can ensure this in their businesses?
Yeah, I think it's a big cultural piece, right? And getting people's buy-in to actually
Yeah.
think about it, not so much short term. Because I think in terms of how a business works, everyone's got their own goals and targets. So like it's inevitable that each department will be a bit self-serving and want to do everything they can to achieve that goal, which is fine. I think that's why you have different departments, you have different people come together because you're
Yeah.
all there to achieve the same goal. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's about not thinking just me first, everyone else can suffer, because
Yeah.
that won't work. Because then, if that happens, the company suffers. So
Yeah.
it's more thinking about shifting the culture and the thinking that I want to achieve my goals, but at the same time, I want everyone else to also lift. So then we all do better, and we all do better. The company does better.
Yeah. No, that's a good call out. And I think for me personally, I've seen that this is kind of reiterated in like company kickoffs or those sorts of town halls or company things, that it should be reiterated there to kind of all sing from the same boat. So that is very, very cool. That kind of wraps up the little chat that we've got today, but I noticed that there are a couple more questions coming through. Are you cool to answer them, Chloe?
Yeah, of course.
Yes, sweet. So one from Natalia is, what other AI/technology are you using, and in what way has this improved efficiencies or removed issues?
Yeah, so we have an internal AI tool that we use, which goes through a lot of processes and things, and how it's reduced the friction is because, so like say for example, if sale wants to do something, it doesn't ask the AI first, hey, for our process, can we do this? And that will already tell them this is the process, talk to finance, XYZ. And I think that's helped a lot, because then it's almost like it's taken that first step out for us.
Yep.
Because a lot of times I think people don't talk to us maybe because they don't want to be rejected, or they don't know how to go about it. But at least now the process is kind of there. It's easy for them to find, because every company has a bunch of processes on their company wiki or whatever, right? But then they have to troll through it. They can't find it. It's too hard. Whereas now they just ask our company AI and then it comes back. And I think that's helped a lot.
Yeah. And again, it's just removing that initial friction that you were talking
Yes.
about, right? It's just like
Yes.
they go through a filter first, and then if it's worth it, we start talking, kind of deal.
Yeah. And it also prompts them to think about a few things before they even come talk to you. And it just makes things more efficient.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Thank you for that. Another question's come through. Hi, Chloe. How large is your finance team, and do you report to the CFO, first of all? And how many direct reports do you have? How do you manage your team to have that high performance culture?
Yeah. So I look after finance and operations. So I do report to the CFO, and I look after finance and operations. So in terms of my direct reports to the team, I'm just thinking now, 5, right? And it's really just about enabling the team to do what they need to. So we don't have like, I don't need to do one-on-ones every week with everyone. That's too much. And then there's also there's like a team lead, and then they come and report to me. So just enabling them to do what they need to, and then having clear like reporting. So then like they know that on a monthly basis, this is what we report, this is what we need to achieve, and we talk about those. And then I make it very transparent that if anyone has any blockers or needs me outside of those times, they can just come to talk to me.
Yeah, cool. So there's that point of escalation to make things happen if it happens. And method of communication. So this is still the same question. Communication with these team members, is it via stand-ups or Slack or?
Yeah, so we have like the regular monthly meeting, that's fine.
Yep.
But also they can Slack me, call me. They
Yep.
know where I sit. They just come over and talk to me. I'm pretty open about that.
Yes.
And if I'm busy and I can't talk to them, I'll let them know and I'll get back to them when I can.
Yeah, awesome. We've got another one. So stand up, like, so referring back to the point we were talking about stand-ups and town halls and all hands, how do you manage the tasks to be done by your team on time?
Yeah, so it's just about keeping accountability without micromanaging. Because I think I'm a firm believer that I shouldn't micromanage because the team should be able to do what they need to do, but then also checking in on them. So I kind of do a push-pull type situation. If I have a new team member, I might check in on them more because, yeah, if it's a new team member, I will just check in on them more until I know that they're okay.
Yeah.
Then I let them go and I'll trust that they'll come to me if they have a problem.
Cool. And we're going to wrap up after this last question. So I'm not sure if I'm understanding it correctly. So Zana has asked this question. What AI assistant do you use in accounting in Weel? Or is there any cost-efficient AI workflow you suggest or recommend? I'm not sure, Zana, if you're referring to like if there's like an AI assistant within the platform of Weel, or are you referring to our company Weel and the AI internal tool that Chloe was talking about? Might need to get that. Oh, the company. Okay.
Oh, the company tool.
Yeah, the company tool, the AI tool.
Yeah, so that's more like an internal build. One of our devs built it. It's more like a ask coach type product. It's for the whole company. We don't have any specific AI in finance per se, like say to do all the month end for us and not that. Because right now, I think with numbers and so I'm still on the edge of caution to run it through it, especially because of the type of business we are. We're a financial services business. So there's just things that we have to be more careful on. So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question.
No, I think it does. And it is a proprietary tool. So a shout out to our dev team. We do have that flexibility to develop these sorts of programs. So look, I know that there are a couple of questions that have strolled through, but we might wrap it up here and we'll have those questions answered after this session. But thank you foremost to Chloe Dung, our director of finance here at Weel. Thank you so much for your time, Chloe. Hope everyone on the call has been able to gain a little bit more insight as to the daily workings of how finance shapes company culture. So after this session, we've got a couple of sessions for you to go through. So we've got happening at 12 o'clock, employment tax essentials, reporting concessions and reforms with our friends from RSM. Or you can also go to our CFO strategies for smarter business growth with our friends at Fathom and Grow CFO Co. So those sessions are outlined there, but I wanted to thank you again, Chloe, and for everyone who joined in today's session, and enjoy the rest of the summit.
Thank you.